shining soul, beloved Baldur, like the sun high in the sky, bringing joy to all around. And kind-hearted, Baldur went everywhere with his brother Hodur, who was blind. Hodur could not see the way, and Baldur guided him generously. But although this was the best of times, Baldur began to dream dark, dark dreams, nightmares, terrors. Perhaps one day I will be killed. Omens came in his dreams. I will die young, a bloody death. And he could not sleep. Oh, mother, mother. And he told Frigga, his mother, all the demons that entered his dreams, how he would surely die soon. My son, you are a great god. You will not die a bloody death. But his torment would not cease. Frigga said, I will go. I will go throughout the 9 worlds. I will exact an oath, a promise from everything living and everything dead, that no harm will come to you. No harm will come to Baldur. Frigga passed through all 9 worlds, exacted a promise from all things living and all things not living, that no harm would come to Baldur. Elements, earth, water, fire, air, swore an oath. Earth, water, fire, air, swore an oath. Metals, iron, copper, silver, gold, swore an oath. Iron, copper, silver, gold, swore an oath. Creatures crawling on the land swore an oath.
Creatures crawling on the land swore an oath.
Creatures swimming in the water swore an oath.
Creatures swimming in the water swore an oath.
Creatures flying in the air swore an oath.
Creatures flying in the air swore an oath.
Giants, dwarves, humans, gods swore an oath. Giants, dwarves, humans, gods swore an oath. No harm will come to Baldur. Oh, she returned. Baldur, my son, you are safe. No harm can befall you. All things living and all things dead have sworn an oath. And the fear and anguish fell from Baldur's visage, and he was calm. He stood before the other gods. No harm can come to me. One god picked up a clod of earth and tossed it towards Baldur. It fell to the ground. He did not feel it. I cannot be harmed. Another picked up a stone and lobbed it at Baldur. It bounced from him. He did not feel it. Another picked up a rock and hurled it at Baldur, but he was not harmed. No harm can come to Baldur. The other gods began to join in. This was how they would do honour to Baldur. One took his spear. He thrust the spear towards Baldur, but it bounced from him. No harm can come to Baldur. All the gods rejoiced, but there was one god who was not so pleased with this. You know which god it was. Loki, the evil thinker, the trickster. Why should he have this? And Loki turned himself into the form, in disguise, an old, old woman, and went to the palace of Frigga, Baldur's mother. Old woman, said Frigga, you look tired. You seem hungry. Come in and I will give you food and rest. I thank you, said the old woman, and came in and was seated and was given good food to eat. But tell me, your son, Baldur, The other gods are attacking him with missiles. Why is this? Oh, they are doing him honor. They are honoring him. He cannot be harmed. Not harmed. Not harmed. He cannot be harmed by anything living or anything dead. Not by anything? No, said Frigga. Baldur cannot be harmed by elements, cannot be harmed by metal, cannot be harmed by any creature, crawling, swimming, flying, not by any human, god, dwarf, giant. Baldur is safe from harm. Everything? Even growing things? Said the old woman. Everything. All plants and flowers which might have poisons, all trees, all have given a pledge no harm can come to Baldur. Everything? I suppose everything? Oh, there is that strange plant that grows high in the trees in the east of Valhalla. What is it called? Mistletoe. Mistletoe is a feeble plant. It could do harm to no one. There was no need to get an oath from mistletoe. No harm can come from mistletoe. Thank you. I am now rested and fed. I will go. The old woman left the palace, and as soon as she was out, she took once more her true form. She was Loki, handsome, tall, strong, agile Loki. He went and joined the other gods at Valhalla. And outside they threw their missiles. One came towards Loki, wielding a battle axe, and chopped at him. But the battle axe fell to the ground. No harm can come to Baldur. All laughed, all played at this festival. But there stood one alone, Hodur. You remember Hodur? Yes, his blind brother. And Loki came to Hodur and said, Hodur, why do you not play with the other gods and throw a missile at your brother? I cannot see, said Hodur. I have nothing to throw. But you would do him an honour if you would join, would you not? I suppose so, said Hodur. Throw something at him. I have nothing to throw, said Hodur. Take this, said Loki. Now Loki had been to the eastern side of Valhalla, had climbed the tree, had cut the mistletoe, that feeble plant. He had cut from it the white berries and the green leaves. He had shaped the stem into a pointed dart. Take this, Hodur. Throw this little dart at your brother. But I cannot see where he stands. Let me guide your hand, said Loki. And Hodur, the blind brother, drew his arm back and flung the dart towards his brother Baldur. And the dart went clean through his chest and out his back. And for a moment Baldur stood amazed and then dropped to the ground, dead. Silence, horror fell among the gods. They turned on Hodur, the blind one. He did not know what he had done. They advanced towards him, ready to destroy him. But no, in that sacred place, among the gods, no one could be harmed. Not a god. Baldur. Oh, Baldur is dead. Mourn, sorrow. Baldur, our brightest star, is dead. Nothing can be well again. Baldur, Baldur, our brightness, our light, here in the land of Asgard, the world of the gods. Our Baldur has been destroyed. A funeral arranged. A great procession down to the shore, gods carrying Baldur on their shoulders. A weeping, weeping gathering. There came Woden with Frigga beside. There was Thor. There was Frey riding his chariot pulled by Gulumbursti, the wild boar. There Freya in her chariot drawn by cats. All came to the funeral. There on the shore was Hringham, Baldur's ship, the greatest of all Viking ships. So long that if you stood at one end, the far end was shrouded in mist. So mighty, and upon the ship's deck a funeral pile was made, and upon that they laid Baldur's dead body. When his wife, Nanna, saw her husband dead upon that ship, her heart broke and she dropped down dead herself, and her body was placed beside that of her husband. And now the gods were to push the ship from shore to sea and set it on fire. But with all their strength they could not move it, so mighty was Hringham, Baldur's ship. They called the giants. And a frost giant and a mountain giant came, and with their mighty strength they pushed the ship with such force that as it went into the sea it burst aflame, and the funeral pyre began. And Baldur's horse came galloping down to the shore and jumped on the deck and was burned with him in the consuming flames. This was the end. They all knew it. The beginning of the end. Ragnarok, the destruction of all worlds, was coming. And at the end of the funeral, when the ship had burned and gone, Frigga turned to the gods in sorrows assembled there and said, "Without Baldur, we are all destined for tragedy. Which one of you is brave enough to go where no living one has gone before? Which one of all you gods will go to Niflheim, go through the gates of hell, and bring back Baldur? Which one of you will do a bargain with Hela? One of you. We must bring back Baldur." But the gods, hearing this, they turned away to enter the world of the dead, for none had gone there living and none had returned. But there was one, Hermod the Nimble. Hermod the Nimble, another son of Woden. "I will go." And that is the next part of the story. What do you think will happen to Hermod when he leaves Valhalla, when he rides off to the world of the dead in Niflheim, in that cold and darkness? Will he get there? Will he manage to cross the river Gjöll where none return? How will he get through the gates of hell? Will he find Baldur there if he gets there? Will he meet Hela, who you cannot look at for her face is so fierce and mean? And if he does, what bargain might he strike with her to bring Baldur back to life? Will he succeed? Can you repeat? Hermod the Nimble.
Hermod the Nimble.
Baldur.
Baldur.
Hela.
Hela.
The river Gjöll.
River Gjöll.
Turn to the person next to you. What do you think is going to happen in the next part of the story? I'm interested to know, who thinks that Hermod the Nimble will bring back Baldur from the world of the dead? About half of you, put down your hands. Who thinks that he will strike a deal with Hela? Has anybody got an idea of what kind of deal he might strike? If you already know the story, don't give it away. Do any of you already know the story? Who knows the story already? None of you? What deal do you think he will do?
Like kill himself to get Baldur back.
Do you think Hermod the Brave, Hermod the Nimble will kill himself so Baldur can live? Who else had that idea? Self-sacrifice. That's a wonderful idea. That would make a great story. Another possibility? What other kind of deal could he do with Hela?
I forgot the trickster one, but
Loki.
Do him, hand him in, because he was on him, basically killed him.
So you think he could get Loki to trick Hela? So Loki might actually get the gods out of trouble, as well as getting them into trouble. That's a good idea. I like that, because Loki doesn't always do mischief against the gods. Sometimes he helps them out of crises. And after all, it was his fault. He's got another idea for the deal that he might do with Hela. Shall we find out?
Yes.
Woden came with his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. You will need my horse. It is the swiftest, faster than the fastest blowing winds. And Hermod leapt into the saddle of Sleipnir and rode away from Valhalla. He rode across Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge. He rode until he came to Niflheim. And there he rode for 9 days and 9 nights in darkness, through valleys where no light entered, and on until he came towards the river Gjöll. And there was a golden bridge to the land of the dead. And Hermod began to ride across that bridge, and the bridge shook with the weight. And as he came across the bridge, he heard a voice of the maiden who guarded the bridge. Who are you? I am Hermod the Nimble. I crossed Gjöll. You have not the hue of death upon your cheek. I am living. I go in search of Baldur. Has he crossed this bridge? Aye. He crossed the bridge with 5 bands of dead persons. But when they crossed the bridge did not tremble, but you, with the weight of life on you, will surely break the bridge. Return, return. I must go to Hela and ask for Baldur to return. None can pass through the gates of hell. But Hermod was undeterred. He galloped on across the bridge, riding upon Sleipnir. And as he passed, the bridge rocked and rattled, but did not break. And on he came to the land of the dead. And on he rode until he came to the mighty iron gates of hell, so high and strong, and the gates would not yield to him. How could he enter? He turned back. He dismounted from Sleipnir. He tightened Sleipnir's saddle around him. He climbed once more into the saddle and dug his spurs into Sleipnir's sides, and Sleipnir ran fleet-footed forward and leapt high, high, seeming flying over the gates of hell, and landed safe on the other side. And on he rode to the palace Elvednor, where Hela resided, and into the great banqueting hall came Hermod the Nimble. And Baldur sat at the head of the table, dead Baldur, and invited Hermod to feast with him. However much Hermod ate, he was hungrier, for the table in Hela's palace is hunger, and the knife is starvation. And under one night of feasting, Hermod turned to Hela, and her face was unbearable to look upon. I must take Baldur back to the world of the living. Baldur remains with me. None return from Hela's domain. Oh, but I must bring him back. Frigga has demanded it. All gods wait. Our worlds will end without the light of Baldur. What can we do to bring him back? What ransom can we give? Said Hela. Baldur may only be returned to life if all things that live and all things that do not live will weep for Baldur. Hermod had hope in his heart. He turned, he said farewell, and rode with Sleipnir away from hell, leaping once more over the gates, riding across the Gjoll bridge, and all the way back 9 days and nights through the dark glens, across Bifrost and back to Valhalla, and came to Frigga. Oh, Frigga, there is hope. If all things living and all things dead will weep for Baldur, Baldur may return to life. And Frigga and Woden they sent for the Valkyrior, in their helmets with their spears, with their armour that shines at night. And you know when it shines at night what that is. Have you ever heard of the Northern Lights? The Aurora. That is the Valkyrior riding. The messengers passed through all 9 worlds, begging all that lived and all that did not live to weep for Baldur. Elements, fire, water, air, earth, wept for Baldur. Fire, water, air, earth, wept for Baldur. Metals, iron, copper, silver, gold, wept for Baldur. Iron, copper, silver, gold, wept for Baldur. Creatures crawling on the land, wept for Baldur. Creatures swimming in the water, wept for Baldur. Creatures swimming in the water, wept for Baldur. Creatures flying in the air, wept for Baldur. Creatures flying in the air, wept for Baldur. Giants, dwarves, humans, gods, wept for Baldur. In all worlds, living and dead, shed their tears, and throughout the worlds their tears falling could be heard. And the messengers returned to Valhalla with their hearts full of joy. But as the last of the Valkyrior came towards the land of the gods, she saw one cave, a dark cave, and looked in, and there in the cave sat an ugly, deformed giantess. Who are you? Thaukt is my name. Older one, weep for Baldur that he might live. Thaukt sheds no tears for Baldur. Let Hela keep her own. The messenger went deep into the cave, but looking around could not find that monstrous giantess. He left the cave and returned in sorrow to Valhalla, where the gods in hope had assembled. But in spite of all the grieving and weeping, the news was broken that there was one who did not weep for Baldur. And Baldur would not come back to life. Oh, sorrow. This was the beginning of the end. Ragnarok, destruction was coming. It came to the gods' attention that Thaukt, this giantess, was none other than Loki in disguise. Loki did not want Baldur to come back. He was jealous. But when Loki knew that the gods were coming for him, he fled. He went to the top of the mountain and he made himself a hut with 4 doors, north, south, east and west. He gazed looking for the danger that was coming, and while he resided there, he went down to the brook. He made the fishing net. The first net, the same nets that we use today, was made by Loki. And Loki fished in that brook. But now, when he knew the gods were coming, he turned himself into the form of a salmon, and he hid himself under a rock in that brook. But the gods found him. They got his net and they dragged the brook. Loki, as a salmon, leapt high over the net, only to be caught in the hand of Thor, the mighty Thor, and with his iron glove strength, he pressed the tail of the salmon, which is why today, if you look at a salmon, its tail is so fine and thin. Loki turned back to his human aspect. He was bound in chains that could not be broken. Woden set above his head a poisonous serpent, and from the serpent's mouth dripped drops of poison, of venom, and as they fell on Loki's face, he cried out in awful pain. The gods left him thus, with the poison dripping upon him. But Loki's wife, Siguna, came with a cup, and she held the cup and caught the drops of poison, drop by drop, for a long time, until the cup was full. And when she went to empty it, the drops fell again on Loki's face, and he howled in horror and pain until she returned to fill the cup again. Every time she goes to empty that cup of poison, Loki cries out in pain. He screeches, he twists and turns, contorts himself. And when Loki writhes in agony, that is when the earth shakes. That is the cause of earthquakes. And here, Midgard, our world, the beginning of the end, Loki suffers. Baldur is no more. Destruction is coming. There are many stories in Norse mythology, and that's one of them. I chose it because it's one of my favourites. Did you enjoy it? Could you tell? No, actually don't tell. Be silent for a moment. Close your eyes if you don't mind. And just remember all of the story that I've told you about the death of Baldur. Not those earlier stories about the gods and how the world was created, but particularly the story of the death of Baldur, from when he had his terrible dreams until the end, when Loki suffers. Could you choose one moment, one single moment from all that story, a moment that you can really clearly imagine? Don't tell anybody what your moment is. If you haven't got a moment yet, keep your eyes open, or wait for everybody to have their eyes closed, and I know that everyone has got one. Everyone has chosen one moment. Yeah, close your eyes, great. You've got one. Yeah, close your eyes then. Imagine you're there, that moment that you're imagining right now. Imagining you're getting really close to the character or characters you can see in that place. Look around you at the environment, the darkness or light. What colours are there? What shapes can you see? Is there anything in the distance? Imagine the shadows and the light. And now look at the characters around. Their faces, their bodies, the shapes that they make, the way they move. How would you describe it? Choose one of the characters at that moment in the story, perhaps a human, perhaps a god, perhaps a creature, and look at that character's face. Look at the expression, look at the eyes. How would you describe their face, their expression, their hair, their clothing? Have a good walk around this character. Look at them from every angle. At this moment in the story, what does that character feel? What does that character want? What does that character want at that moment? Could you stand up quietly in your own space facing me? Great. And I'd like you to be that character you were just imagining. Use your body. Don't look at anybody else. Only look at me. Only look at me. And can you show me your face, your eyes, your body? No one else is looking at you because you're looking at me. Could you show me that character at that moment? 3, 2, 1. And relax. That's really good. Some of you really physicalizing that moment. This is called a tableau. In drama, when we make a still image, and that image tells story. And a tableau needs to be very strong. So if I'm, for example, frightened, I might go like this. But in a tableau, I'll go. So really use your knees, your shoulders, your eyes, your face to make that still moment of that character, of that moment in the story. Come away, don't lean. 3, 2, 1, and freeze. Oh, that's so much better. Relax. And face to face with a partner. Standing with your partner, face to face. If you don't have a partner, put your hand up and we'll help you find a partner. Mr. Lee, this young man needs a partner. Wonderful. Everyone's got a partner. Good, good, good. A and B. A, you're going to go first. You are going to show your still picture. And B, don't speak, but have a good long look and guess which character it might be. But don't say until I tell you. Then you can ask A, and A will tell you if you're right or not, or if you're not right, which moment they're actually representing. So B, get ready to look, but do not speak. It's thinking time. A, make your picture now. Shh, do not speak. Okay. B, have you guessed yet? Whisper to your partner, see if you're right. Yes. Okay. A, you can tell them the truth. What are you? B's turn. B, get ready. 3, 2, 1. A is silent. Freeze. Have a good long look. Don't speak yet. Have a good look around at B. Whisper to B. What do you think? Tell them the truth. Sit down facing your partner. You showed the moment with your body, now show the moment with the words to express your imagination. A, tell B the moment that you imagine, but in detail. Everything you imagine seeing, hearing, feeling, maybe even smelling or tasting at that moment, any sensations like cold or hot or wet or dry. Describe it in as much detail as you can. And what does that character want? What does that character feel? B, your task, if you can manage this, is to remember everything that A describes. Even if you imagined that moment in a completely different way, remember the way that A described it. You might want to check with a couple of questions, because afterwards I'm going to challenge you to remember what A told you. So get a good description from A. Begin. Wonderful. B, could you just, do you know the word summarise?
Yes.
Good. B, can you summarise back to A what you've just been told? In other words, the main ideas of what you've just been told by A. Say back to them what they imagined. If you could give a gift, any gift, to one of the characters in the story of the Death of Baldur, which gift would you give, and who would you give it to, and at which point